It is an honor today to have Wyatt Chambers on the podcast. Wyatt is the founder and owner of CS Design Studios, a company he founded after working for UPS as an e-commerce consultant. His countless accomplishments include becoming a Google partner, the 2022 BBB Torch Award in Business Ethics, and a Horizon Interactive Awards winner, which is one of the most prestigious awards in the field of interactive and creative media. He's currently a multi-seven-figure agency owner and the author of his new book, Digital Marketing for Pest Control Companies, The Insider's Guide to Generating Leads and Sales Online. Wyatt, I'm so glad you were here. Thanks for being on the show.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the invite. It was nice to meet you earlier this year in Cancun. And I was like, wow, let's do this. So thank you for the outreach.
Absolutely.
Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
Let's start with you sharing a little bit of your story with our listeners, particularly around your journey and your development as a leader. How did you get started?
Wow, that's a hard one. I would just say that it started out of necessity, as far as leadership. I mean, when it started at UPS, I was at the time, the youngest supervisor that had ever promoted into that position. And maybe that just came from listening to my parents. When they said, hey, do this, I did it, and I think the management team probably liked that. Hey, we asked this guy to do something, he does it. So that kind of started off the journey on leadership as far as from a career perspective.
Yeah. And then founding your own company, transitioning from being an employee to now you're in charge, but you're also responsible for everything. That's a pretty big leap. What prompted you to do that?
I think it was after betrayal, believe it or not. I got, after UPS, I had started a company and that lasted very short and that crashed and burned. So my first company crashed and burned. And I went to go work for what I would call small to medium-sized business America, sub $20 million company. Mm-hmm. And I started as a sales rep, which was that was hard, to go from e-commerce consultant to a sales rep. And I was kind of forced into a position of taking a leadership role because I told my boss that I wouldn't work for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's kind of how that went. And it was actually looking back, it was a defining moment. I think everybody has those career moments.
Yeah.
He had done something that wasn't ethical, that was personal. And equivalent to stealing. So
oh my goodness.
I told the owners of the company that I wouldn't work for them. And I said, look, man, I'm pretty good at this web thing. Let me go ahead and just start a web division for you. And they're like, look, we can let you go for, not following this, but we're going to go ahead and go ahead, do it. So they gave me permission to practice a craft. At the time, we're going back in the time machine 20 years. So Google Ads, when I was talking about Google Ads, people were using the yellow pages, and I remember my peers telling me, you're not going to make any money doing that. And I just kind of laughed. But I started up and basically making websites with some paid per click marketing within a company called Copper State Design Studios. So it was actually a telecommunications company, and that CS I carried, that's where CS came from.
Wow.
And so forced leadership.
Yeah, right.
I got forced into it. Now that story kind of unfolds where I eventually leave. I said, well, hey, I'm selling it. I'm doing the work and I'm billing for it. What I need you guys for. And, it didn't take much time. I'm a slow learner. I am a very slow learner, but I went ahead and started off on a plastic table where I'm at now. Actually, I've been here ever since I left that company, which is no longer in existence, but this one is. So that's kind of, that kind of was the kickoff for this journey down what we call a digital marketing agency, which started off with a love to help people make money for their businesses with pay-per-click advertising and a website.
And it has come a pretty long way since those days.
Yeah. It started off, I mean, this was before a lot of stuff Google was doing, which were just text ads back then, right? And we became one of the first Google agencies. I think we were the first Google agency actually in Tucson, Arizona,
My goodness.
where Google was doing events here on location here with us. Actually, when they treated their partners awesome. And before Google became the monolith it is today. But yes, we were doing Google events here.
Wow. So, starting from that point, building to what is today a multi-7-figure agency, I imagine it's probably just been like straight up and to the right, right? I mean, you haven't really had any big challenges, any big difficulties. People looking from the outside are just like, man, Wyatt, he's just been a rocket ride, right? Straight up.
Yeah.
No?
It doesn't work that way. It never works that way. And I know you're just trying to prompt this thing for, hey, what were the challenges, right? What were I'm going to say, what were the gifts and opportunities? And that's really the positive mindset. What's the gift?
Yes.
What's the opportunity? Because there were
Yes.
several times on that journey where you get super emotional.
Yeah.
You make mistakes. One of those mistakes cost me $600,000. Yeah, isn't that nice to just say, hey guys, I blew it on $600,000. Yeah, I did. And I'm sharing that because as you're on that journey, it doesn't really matter how much money you're making. It matters what you're doing to better your customer base and, more importantly, even the people that work with you. I never say for me. They're not working for me. They're working for themselves. We're working together. We're working together, right? And I think in Mexico there, Cancun, one of the agency owners said, hey, check out this book called Dream Manager.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you've seen that, but I started listening to it and I was like, hey, I'm practicing now the Dream Manager, where I've been doing that all along. It wasn't called that, but it's just simply, hey, be interested in your people and what they want to do, what they want to do. So, we're coming up on 7 or 8 people that have worked with me that are now doing this for themselves.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I don't say I was coaching them, but they were learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's kind of, and I'm friends with all of them. It's never fun when you have to say goodbye to somebody because no one ever left on their own initiative. Let me just make that clear. No one's ever left on their own initiative. I can't remember anybody that's left on their own initiative. I have let them go, and that's not a fun thing for a business owner to do.
Yeah.
I remember having the conversation with some of them and saying, look, you're an entrepreneur, own it. And I think that was something I had to learn early. I didn't know I was an entrepreneur. I worked for UPS until I realized, you know what? I do want to be an entrepreneur. That's what I want to do. Then it took a while to figure out, well, what does that path look like? Well, it happened to be the vehicle of digital marketing.
Yeah.
And it came from, and I'll tell you the story, and this is real brief. I remember at UPS, I was seeing young guys that were running their own businesses and they're doing Google marketing. I'm not sure if it was called Google at the time. And they were running keywords that were printer cartridge model numbers on Google ads, and they were raking it in. I was like, how are you selling all these printer cartridges and you're not Best Buy? And it was their keywords they were aftermarket printer cartridges that they were selling, with the keywords being the model numbers or the part numbers, one of the two. And they were that's what they did. And I was like, bingo, got it. And that's how I learned how to start doing pay-per-click marketing, is from that.
For you to have raised and elevated so many people who are now launched into their own thing. This sounds like, and this is one of the things I picked up on when we first met in Mexico. You are all about creating environments for people not just to do a job, but for them to develop and grow so that they can start to reach into their capacity. That's what that sounds like. It sounds like you're creating that environment and then you're saying, hey, you're there. Time to go. Time to get out of the nest and launch. Is that accurate?
It is to some degree. I think that, as much as that sounds like a fairy tale, because it's hard to let somebody go.
Sure it
It's probably
is.
the least favorite thing that any business owner wants to do is to say goodbye to somebody,
Yeah.
especially if you've invested in them.
Yeah.
And I do invest in people with education or opportunity or challenges, whatever it might be. It's important for me to see people grow. And that's been hard, I think, as a agency owner or even a
Mhm.
business owner is I sometimes personalize it like I'm failing them if they're not growing.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept where I have to be okay with people that are happy with just staying the same because they
Hmm.
don't think like us, right? So we kind of play
Yeah.
God. And then that's what somebody says, hey, are you trying to play God? I'm like, well, that was kind of one of those light moments where I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't do that. I don't
Mhm.
want to project on somebody where I think they should be. If they're
Mm,
happy
that's
doing
good.
the same thing, the same job, who am I to think that they need to become something else?
And yet you listen to them. You listen to their
Oh,
hopes, their dreams, their aspirations.
oh
And
yeah.
then you say, how can I help them get there?
That's the point, right? Is asking, how can I help you? Like a conversation that took place this morning. I said, I know you work here. You do a great job. What are your dreams? There's that dream
Yeah.
manager speak, right? I said, what are
Yeah.
your dreams? What do you want to do? And she told me, she's like, hey, I really like my job. I like the analytics I do and I want to learn more. I want to be better at it. I'm like, great. We're going to make sure that happens. What
Yeah.
else? Oh, I want to get my kids through college. Bingo. What can we do to help you achieve that dream? Now it should project the thought that, hey, Wyatt cares about me. Wyatt wants to see me achieve what I want to do. Yeah, there's company goals. Yeah, we know what the vision
Yeah.
is and where we're going. I
Sure.
need to get clearer on that as time goes on. But the thought is, hey, I'm really in tune with where you want to go with this. What do you want to accomplish?
Hmm.
Because if you got a team that's rowing in the same direction, then you got a real team.
Yeah.
I would say, well, you were talking about challenges, right? One of the hardest challenges for me was COVID
Yeah.
because I'm a people person. I get energy from being around people, and it's very hard to
Mhm.
do this. I've
Yeah.
gotten better at it, but when somebody's in the room,
Mhm.
you can feel their energy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just a beautiful thing. And so now I have somewhat of a distributed team in some ways. I got people in Australia. One of the recent ones moved to, gosh, I'm trying to think, not Colombia. Yeah, something like Colombia,
Mm.
where these guys are on different time scales. So that's kind of interesting. We're almost running 24/7 now with
Wow.
spread. So that's one of the benefits. But
Yeah. Right.
the overlap of communication is kind of hard sometimes.
For sure.
But I think just being in tune with what people want. One of the ones that left to, another country was looking for a change. He came
Hmm.
to me and said, hey, why can I keep doing the same job, but just do it remote?
Hmm.
Like, I don't see why not. It may not, there might be some things that I can't do for you while you're here, but yeah, I can do that for you. I can offer that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. One of the things we connected on in Mexico was that you two are a person of faith.
Oh yeah.
And this impacts and touches everything that you do. And I picked up on that when you were describing what you're doing, what you're excited about, and how that infuses so much of that. Can you talk about how that has been a part of your journey as an agency owner and a business owner, and how that influences how you lead?
Yeah, 100%. I think that when you think about what we're trying to achieve, right? It's, our businesses will crash at some point or we'll get off the bus at some point and they might be sold, whatever it might happen, but, years from now, I'm looking way beyond retirement. I'm looking, to a future that, different ones hold up different futures, but I'm looking to that time frame. I don't even like the word legacy. It's just,
Hmm.
who are you going to become?
Yeah.
Who are you going to become? And no one wants to be remembered by, oh, hey, I remember what Wyatt drove. I remember what office chair, whatever, that doesn't really matter, does it? And so I think we're all looking for purpose and impact.
Hmm.
We can remember people that gave us something or helped us on our journey. There's no self-made people, right? We've
Mhm.
been helped along the way. And I think that, the principles in the Bible are timeless, right? To just
Mhm.
love your neighbor as yourself. If we could just do that, but we'd be awesome leaders,
Yes, indeed.
and I think when we look at the imperfections in men in the scriptures or in the Bible, we see, wow, why did God have that recorded for our benefit? Because there's no such thing as a perfect individual. And, when we start judging ourselves internally, like not good enough, that imposter syndrome, which a lot of you business owners have.
Yeah.
Why did God record imperfect people? And even perfection still has free choice. And some of those even made the wrong choice. So I think it's just learning from who do you want to become and where do you want to go? And that goes way beyond making a living, way beyond making a living. And I think that for those that are maybe they're struggling with sales, turn that thing around with, I want to make a living, but how can I help them make a living first? Give first, which is that principle. There's more happiness in giving than receiving. And I think that that's always worked in sales and in business. Obviously, that direction's timeless in the Bible, whether you like that, look at it or not, that's timeless. And we've looked at a lot of different sales strategy, but it is really about, if you're looking out for the other individual, the other business, you're going to help them achieve what they want. And again, that's the best outcome you could hope for, is if you're helping people reach their goals.
I had, there's a principle that I often talk about with clients, and it comes from the writing and speaking of Jeff Henderson, who wrote a book called Know What You're For. And the principle that I talk about is when you're dealing with team members, when you're dealing with clients, it doesn't matter. In any relationship, instead of focusing on what you want from them, focus on what you want for them. It's a whole different ballgame. It completely spins it around. And that's what I hear you describing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is if people are going to be able to see whether you're there for yourself or for them.
Yeah.
And they'll see it over time, right? And so it's not uncommon for me to tell people that I've had clients for over a decade, and when we talk about, one of the things that some agencies struggle with is client retention.
Yes.
I get it. People come and go and kick tires, but if you're really focused on a long-term relationship with them, they see that, and that can cover over any skills you lack. Let's face it. I mean, with SEO and pay-per-click advertising, that game changes daily, and for a reason. And so to remain skilled at that and be in that top 1% is not always easy. And, it's not about being in the 1%. It's really about trying to serve your clients. If you have a real relationship, and if there's anything you take from this podcast today, if you have a real relationship with your customer, that's going to cover over a lot of those mistakes that you make.
I love that. There's so much of an others focused theme to what you're saying, whether it's your team members, whether it's your clients, you're focused on them. Is that something that's always been true of you, or is this something that you've learned along the way?
No, I think those are those timeless principles, the golden rule, right? Or number 2, love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
I think we strive to do that. And when we get off the path, at least when I've gotten off the path, it's very clear and evident what happens, because we learn some of our most valuable lessons when we don't focus on just doing that. And there's a word that depends who you talk to, but it's called humility. Continue considering others superior to you, that we try to do, right? And not try to size people up, or, hey, I'm better than you, or let me show you my accolade, whatever, and that comes across where no one wants to be talked down to.
Yeah, that's true.
And, last week I had a chance to talk to a lot of pest control owners ranging from $250,000 to $50 million last year. And I can help all of them. And it's doesn't mean that I can have the same result with all of them, but there's a good feeling about that. When you get good at what you do, there's always some sort of help you can provide. Do I want to work with everybody? No, I have to pre-qualify folks, because we have only so much emotional energy. That's a real factor. Like we were talking about, letting a client. Yeah. In our management meeting this morning, we're like, hey, we need to let this client go. He's bad for our whole team.
Wow.
Oh yeah. It's not that we're not achieving results for him. We are, but for the team morale, we got to do that. And that's a $36,000 a year decision. We've made it. It's like, I care more about my people than I do about this particular client. You know, we've heard that customer first. No, not necessarily.
Right.
You know, I don't believe in absolutes on this stuff, but we have to make those hard decisions. And so we do let clients go too. And it's not going to be one of those, hey, we got to raise your rates kind of scenario. It's going to be we're not a good fit. We're not a good fit. And that's okay. We're, you know, just like when you talk to people about your faith, not always a good fit.
Absolutely.
You've probably come across people that are more interested in being right than getting it right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. We come across them all the time. They're not humble.
Yeah.
You know, I can talk to people of different faiths and walk away and, you know, hey, I learned something from you today. You know, like I did a Bible study with somebody this morning and I taught them what the first lie was. What's the first lie? Didn't know it. Been around religion his whole life. Didn't know the first lie. I said, okay, let's talk about the first lie because everything else rolls from there.
Yeah.
And that's just, you know, I love when you can see lights going on for people when they see truth. You know, and whether it's you're teaching them principle that'll serve them in business or spiritually, the result's the same. You have joy. I have joy because you feel like you're fulfilling a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you do a lot of that.
That's so good.
Yeah.
You know, I think the teachable spirit that you're describing that is something I talk about all the time. I believe to be a truly catalytic leader, you have to model and lead from a teachable spirit where you realize you can learn from anybody. Sometimes you learn what not to do, but that's okay. That's valuable. You know, the goal is to evaluate every experience, every relationship with what can I learn here? What can I learn here? And I think if we approach with that posture, that's the humility that you're describing because you can learn from anybody. This summer, you released a book, Digital Marketing for Pest Control Companies.
I did.
Tell me about that. Tell me about your book and why you wrote it.
Yeah, I brought it along just in case you brought it up.
Yeah.
It is, first of all, hats off to Josh Nelson, right?
Yeah.
Josh Nelson, I know you know him. I saw that you were a speaker Absolutely. At his intensive, right?
Absolutely.
And I just recently did a hiatus from a 7-figure agency, but I plan on going back. Yeah. And a part of that is I need to be that player in a niche place before I can go back. So, I've been a generalist for a long time, but the book was encouragement from Josh Nelson. That's part of his program is, hey, write a book, become an authority.
Yeah. It
doesn't have to be perfect. I don't know why we beat ourselves up for saying, man, I have to release this perfect book. He said, get over yourself. Not every, the majority of people aren't going to read your book.
Yeah.
And I said, man, how do I do that? And so I watched his video and I think it was Candy Chiropractor or Chiro. Yeah. One of the 7-figure agencies had a video on how to write a book. And so I follow those directions. I'm like, man, this isn't that great, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. And I got Jonathan Mast involved. I said, look, let's do something different. I've read every pest control marketing book that's on Amazon. I've read them all. I'm going to be the first guy to write a book with AI in their pest control marketing book.
Ooh.
And who am I going to find that I feel like is the guy in that space?
Right.
Well, I'm going to call Jonathan. I called Jonathan. Jonathan, you need to write me a chapter on AI. And so he did. So he did that for me. Apparently, I got that idea and I beat Josh Nelson to the punch. Because I heard afterwards, Nelson went to Jonathan Mast for that. But I thought that was kind of funny. So first pest control book, claim to fame is it's got a chapter on AI and was the first one to hit the market on that. I also had Jonathan create all the digital imagery in my book.
Oh, nice.
Which he gave me 17 images and they're all in there. I'm like, look, I don't want to keep rehashing the same images that are out there. Let's do something with a little bit of thematic to it. So I would say I'm contently dissatisfied with this book.
Mm-hmm.
but it did exactly what I needed to. For example, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I like to do, principle, give first.
Yeah.
I got the paper copies. I'm giving out all these for free at the Pest World that I'm attending in October.
Nice.
But I sent out, I had PCT, that's the authority in the pest control industry, send out 27,000 emails. And I said, we're going to have a free book, download it here. And so people have been downloading it left and right. And I had my first sales call last week that the guy downloaded it, printed it out, read the whole thing,
Whoa.
and we did our sales call. I'm like, look, it generated the authority I was going for.
Mm-hmm.
He loved it, changed his whole perspective. And I'm like, I'm sitting there going, not that good. But you know what? It's good enough for somebody that hasn't been in my world. I forget, you forget, we've been in this space and we do this
Right.
every day.
That's
And
it.
and I think it's changing so fast that it's never good enough.
Yeah.
Just when you feel like you dialed something in, it's like, it's not working.
Yep.
But when I start hearing the problems, and us as digital agency owners, when we care about our people that we help, we hear the problems. One of the problems I heard was devastating.
Hmm.
Somebody's Google business profile got revoked.
Oh.
This guy
Oh.
lost. Yeah, it got revoked by the largest pest control marketing company that I'm competing with. Yeah, when you hear this story, you know what he had to do? He had to go rent a building in a location to get a new GBP put into that location where he was losing all this business.
Oh my goodness.
Multi-million-dollar pest control company that I'm following back up with, heard that story and was like, wow,
Wow.
this is real. This is real. And so we know the impact it has when somebody gets their GBP revoked and how to try to work around that or do things. People do black hat stuff, get people's things pulled. I'm very clear with people that we're only going to do white hat stuff here. We're not going
Yeah.
to do fake reviews. We're not going to do the stuff that people try to cut corners and do. There's
Sounds
that
like integrity.
yeah,
Yeah.
integrity, ethics, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
ties into what we do. And I think that it's not the fast road. Money can solve some problems, but that's not the way to solve it. You don't want
Yeah.
fake reviews. You don't want fake business listings. You don't want all the stuff that people try to do to game the system. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want that. Yeah.
Mm. I love that, man.
But the book itself, I think the process of going through Amazon and getting that up and online, having a digital and a print copy,
Mm-hmm.
not that hard.
Yeah.
If you need me to direct you, I'm happy to give you what I learned. Not a hard deal. It's not an obstacle. If you feel like you have an agency, especially if it's niche, follow Josh's. I'll give it to Josh. Get a book out there and establish yourself as an authority, and then go from there.
So good. Wyatt, you are leading at a different level today than you did 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, yep.
And 5 years from now, your team and your business are going to need you to lead at an even higher level. What are you doing to stay on top of your game? What are you doing to level up with the new leadership skills that your team and your clients and your business is going to need you to have?
That's a good question. I think that you have to be willing to invest in bigger relationships.
Mm, that's good.
So yeah, I think that that's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it started. Truth. I got a free trip to TCS.
Nice.
I was the winner. And I threw somebody's name in the hat who had to be Nick Horde that was at our table
Yeah.
as
Hey.
a good example of a business agency. And so I'm in the hospital, and I get this instant messenger request from Karen Height. She's all excited and she's saying, "You won," and she's just going on and on. And I'm like, I couldn't even spell TCS. I didn't know what TCS was. And I'm just trying to be like, hey man, I don't mean to be not happy about this because it sounds great. But I couldn't carry on a conversation as I'm getting ready to go in with my daughter for a procedure. So that's where that went. Won it, went down there. Next thing you know, I'm paying for a mastermind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, happy to pay it. Look at all these people I get to meet.
Yeah.
Listen to all these speakers. I get to hear some masters here and have a life-changing experience from a standpoint of these are good people. And so when you talk about upping your leadership, you're only going to rise to the level of the mentors in the room, or the books you read. How are you going to level up your game? Are you going to be associating with people that know how to do it? So some of the things that have come from that book out there, podcast out there. What's next? I'm launching a mastermind.
Nice.
I'm doing a mastermind for the pest control industry.
Love it.
And I think that's been in the making for over, like, that wasn't part of the 7-figure agency plan. That was something I picked up from the Heights.
Nice.
So they're helping me on that. And the thought is I'm learning from people that have done it. Josh has done it.
Yep.
Karen and JC have done it.
Yep.
And there isn't that offering in the pest control industry. So I'm the first to offer this.
There's about to be.
Yeah, well, there is already. I'm already pitching it. Going to Pest World, we're talking about this mastermind group.
Awesome.
Combined with fractional CMO and fractional COO. So it's the first. Yeah, it's the first offering to combine. Hey, we're going to help you with your marketing. But as marketing and digital marketing agencies, we know that if we bring leads to people and they can't sell, or they can't close, or they can't scale, they need help. And so why not solve some of those problems if you have the ability to do so? And so I've put that together. You need a mastermind, you need a peer group, and you need smart people to come in and speak and help them raise their game. So to answer your question, provide the environment and the learning that will help somebody do that. Yeah.
So good, man. I love that. I can't wait to see what happens with that.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. Now, I've learned a lot of lessons in the last 5 years because I've scaled to multiple businesses, not just one. And it's something that I got invited into, actually. And it's, and I'll plant this seed. Maybe you're a digital marketing agency and you're like, hey, man, this digital marketing thing, I've got it nailed. I've got people in place to handle this, but what if somebody comes to me and says, hey, market this company, I'll give you equity. I'll give you equity. So I'm on that journey. So I'm on that journey. So I don't even like saying serial entrepreneur because people look at you sideways. But you know what I tell people? I'm like, hey, you've heard of people that own multiple real estate properties. Instead of collecting real estate, I collect businesses at this point. That might change. My risk tolerance, as you know, is pretty high because one thing I learned in the MLM industry early in my 20s is people aren't as duplicatable as you like to believe.
That's right.
And so, but with the businesses, when you're helping enable somebody else's dream, hey, I'm a player, I can help them with their marketing, but I want to also own a piece of your company. That's doable for us marketeers out there. That's doable for digital marketing agencies. It's a whole different mindset, and I kind of stumbled into it. And what happened is the 5th largest pest control company CEO came to me and he's going, hey, I'm starting a pest control company. How would you like a piece of it? What do you say to that? What do you say to that? I'm not a bug guy. I've never killed a bug in my life. I've called pest control companies.
That's right.
and literally that's what happened is and he asked me for investment capital and a couple other partners. And that's what kicked that off. And that was 4 years ago. And I'm not joking. As soon as I stroked a check for that, COVID hit. So all that traditional marketing fell out the window. No pressure on you, but we need you to market this thing online. And really, that's when I spent a lot of time on Google Business Profile. Because how can you compete with 400 pest control companies in your local geography? So we don't need to talk about 2X, 10X, 100X. Let's talk about ground zero to having a brand We just got voted by Forbes Home Services as number 2 in our geo.
My goodness.
750 5-star reviews. Why? Because we're a 5-star culture. So that's now something I'm bringing to pest control companies, is you're going to change the way you view your customer by becoming a 5-star culture. Let me tell you what that means. Boom, part of our mastermind.
Brilliant, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, it didn't come from one guy. This is multiple talented people that came together, and that's just one of many. And I won't talk about the other ones, but the thought is, get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Get out of your comfort zone. And if you're not an entrepreneur, you're never going to be comfortable. Change is imminent. Change is going to happen.
True.
Change is imminent. Yeah.
Well, growth only happens on the other side of change.
100%. That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
You mentioned the getting into the rooms where people are thinking and dreaming bigger than you are, getting into those spaces, right? But you also mentioned the books that you read. I'm curious, is there a book that has made a big difference in your journey that you would recommend to the leaders who are listening? Hey, if you haven't read this, you've got to put this on your list.
Yeah, there's a lot of different thought leaders that I like to listen to. Simon Sinek, Adam Grant, just optimism and how important it is to stay in that optimistic state of mind. I'll give you a framework and a methodology that is huge for how do you achieve that. Because some people are just wired for negativity, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I hate to say it, but it's easier to go to a negative spot than what are you doing that's right?
Yeah.
So the methodology is called positive intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
That framework is amazing. Like, how do you stay in a positive state? And that's taught, and they're giving those courses to coaches. So positive intelligence, take a look at that. Talks about what takes away your happiness specifically. Everybody has different triggers for how they are. Like, for example, one of my worst saboteurs is people pleaser.
Oh.
I will please people because I want to give, but sometimes we give beyond and expect in return, and that can hijack your happiness. And that's certainly been the case for me. Okay, so that was one methodology and book you can look up. That's beautiful. That's not a heavy read by means. Perfect for coaches that want to have high-performing teams and optimistic ideology. The other recent 3-book series that I read is by a man by the name of Dan Sullivan.
Yes.
Dan wrote 3 books, and probably my favorite there is The Gap and the Gain. Fantastic. And the thought is, the thought is still, how do you stay out of that gap mentality? And how you stay in a gain mindset. And the one thing that really sticks with me is always measure backwards. A and B. Always measure backwards. And if you do that, then you can stay in a positive mindset by saying, hey, what did I learn from this? How did I grow? Yes. Which goes back to the positive intelligence of what is the gift and the opportunity.
Yes.
What did I learn from this? And if you can stay there, stay in a mindset of gratitude. If you start finding yourself in that negative spot, create a list of 10 things of what you're grateful for. And I find myself when I'm getting hijacked, unhappy, whatever, I'm like, okay, I'm happy that I have a home. Happy I have a job. Happy for this beautiful family I have. I'm happy that I know what is coming in the future with certainty. Happy I have a relationship with my creator. You keep going there. You cannot stay in that negative mindset. And if you're hijacked, and you have to be aware that self-awareness is so important in business, because the energy that you bring into your team, and if you're in that hijacked state of mind of negativity, you will crash and burn your team. Yeah.
So true.
Dan Sullivan, great stuff there. If you're familiar with EOS, I know you are. That's where those guys learned how to build that system. And they still coach with Dan Sullivan, which is called Strategic Coach. So I'll give him props. I'm not in that group yet, I'll probably be in there at some point. Right now, I have enough coaches where my bandwidth is taken right now.
But I think that is a testament to the power of coaching, to look at what you have done, what you are doing, and where you're going. You know, so many folks think they can see everything they need to see all by themselves, but you can't see the whole picture while you're in the frame. And
Nope.
you are a testament to what happens when you leverage the eyes and ears of other people and the wisdom and the experience of other people and pour that into your experience in the present and going forward. Why I could continue to talk with you. Every time we talk, I leave so encouraged and so inspired. And I know our listeners are the same. If they want to continue to learn from you and stay connected to you, what is the best way for them to do that?
You know, I welcome people to connect with me on LinkedIn. The problem is, as you start making more connections, more people try to take your time, and that's
Yeah,
I feel like my bandwidth is at capacity. But LinkedIn would probably be a really good way. Um, you know, I'll be doing a lot of outreach, at least in the pest control realm. The height group, I'm in there. But you know, I'm resonant about about providing a cell number because it'll probably just constantly be ringing, and then
right.
I won't have enough time to even feed myself.
That's right.
But that's probably the best way right now is LinkedIn.
That's good. That's great.
And if there is, hey, I really something resonated and you want to know more, I'll take the time for you. You know, my that's my goal in life is to really be a giver and have purpose, a life with meaning. And please understand, I don't believe I'm anywhere close to arriving at all. And I feel like in high school, I remember that statement: "The more I know, the less I know."
That's right.
That's what's
That's
going on in this. That's what's going on in this body in this life right now. Is I don't feel like I know a whole lot. I know enough to get myself into trouble, but I think that you probably heard that the fear of missing out
yeah.
is driving this. Man, I don't want to miss out, and I want to get to connect with as many people as I can and learn as much as I can.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you providing this opportunity, and maybe I've shared something that might impact you moving forward.
I have no doubt. I so appreciate your giving spirit today, sharing
Yeah,
so freely and so generously with what you've learned so far. And I believe your best days are yet to come.
I appreciate that. I hope so. And according to what I've learned so far, the best days are ahead. There's plenty that I don't use the word hope. I know that there's real purpose in life and the things that are coming way beyond the material, which that comes and goes.
100%. Thanks for joining me for this episode today. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, if you don't have a copy of my newest book, Catalytic Leadership, I'd love to put a copy in your hands. If you go to catalyticleadershipbook.com, you can get a copy for free. Just pay the shipping so I can get it to you, and we'll get one right out. My goal is to put this into the hands of as many leaders as possible. This book captures principles that I've learned in 20 plus years of coaching leaders in the entrepreneurial space, in business, government, nonprofits, education, and the local church. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take a next step with a coach to help you intentionally grow and thrive as a leader, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to catalyticleadership.net to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, leaders, choose to be catalytic.
Thanks for listening to Catalytic Leadership with Dr. William Attaway. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. Want more? Go to catalyticleadership.net.